It's an unusual city made up of 6 towns. It has a distinct manner of speech, and that's something that the Potteries dialect maintains.
It's a way of speech which has evolved throughout the potteries, and mainly through the fact that people worked within a similar industry.
It's the closest I can get to Anglo-Saxon. It's beautiful.
Oh, Potteries dialect, it's the old jargon, what my father taught me when I was little. And they all used it. Don't want anybody that got away from it. We all use the jargon, the old jargon.
I thought that was how people talked. You know, when I was younger anyhow, because like all my uncles worked in pets, so they were always talking in potteries.
I mean, they've taken the pots off us, they've taken the pits off us. A lot of the manufacturing is gone, which Stoke-on-Trent was always known for. And the only thing you've got left now is your accent and your dialect. If you take the accent and the dialect away, you just become a non-entity, you just blend into the background and become nobody.
I do. Alan Povey here. Welcome to a film about the Potteries dialect, a film that charts the rise of an industrial language. A language that grew alongside the pots and the pits. What is the Potteries dialect? Where did it come from? And what does it mean to you, the people of the Potteries? These are all questions that will be answered in the next 25 minutes or so. So sit back and enjoy this film about you and your language, and Myanmar language. Steve Burks, a former potter and a local historian, knows more than a thing or two about the potteries and about the local dialect.
Most locations in the country will have a pretty unique way of speaking, a way of pronunciation, and that tends to be confined to a local area. And so the Potteries dialect is that manner of speech which is confined to the 6 towns of Stoke-on-Trent. If you live in Stoke-on-Trent, you don't notice that you speak differently than many other people, but often you'll find a visitor will come and sort of say, well, don't you talk funny around here?
Up duck a wat.
I've gone as fianner I won it. What they?
Talk proper, they.
Why was up the road to speak? Everybody knows what I'm talking about, don't they?
This language of ours has its roots firmly in the past, as historian Fred Hughes explains.
I think the first signs of a dialect were in the late part of the 1600s, the early part of the 1700s. Nothing has been recorded, nothing is oral about these times, but there are some written examples of how the dialect must have sounded, notably in recorded by John Wood in his seminal history of the borough of Stoke-on-Trent, which was published in 1843. And that actually does give a conversation about 4 pages long. 2 men who meet up here in Burslem, interpreting the dialect of around about the middle of the 1700s, and he does it phonetically, so he writes it phonetically, so you have to read and listen to what was said, and you've got some really obscure words that sort of slurred into and mixed into the next word. So, for instance, the whole thing starts off where Mr. Tellwright meets Mr. Lee, and it begins sort of, how come you are esoteric? It's that kind of thing, you see. Very hard to interpret, but you have to look at the sounds before you can hear the sounds.
Of course, fans of the Dave Foller's characters, Myanmar Lady, will be used to looking at the sounds before being able to hear them. We'll see later how the Potteries dialects inspired stories, cartoons and comedy. But for one man, it's inspired him to write poems about the potteries, written in potteries.
The sacred oatcake. Oatcake's the year, oatcake's the year. They can't get enough. We send them Paris, Barcelona, even Magaluf. The recipe's a magic thing. It's potteries through and through. It's got to be the best food made from Stafford up to Crewe. There's not quite like an oatcake when they're peckish and need a snack, but to roll them with the filling in, there is a certain knack. It might seem trivial to most of you, but it annoys me when they break. The finished section must be round, it's vital for heaven's sake.
North Staffordshire was right at the heart of industrial England, a charred, scorched heart that beat like a lion's. The pots and the pits provided work for tens of thousands of people across this region. The industry was dirty, it was noisy, and within the workplace, the dialect evolved. The pot banks even had their own words, such as slippers, which was the slip house, and trashers, which were a form of footwear that women wore on pot banks. The Potteries Dialect was how people spoke while they were at work.
We've got an area based on industry, and once you've got a close community of miners, of potters, and families work together and son follows father, you get all that sort of dialect and accent persisting very strongly. And dialect is a shorthand and a means of familiarity. It shows you belong to this area, this town, this street. I mean, even in the potteries, the dialect changes from Tunstall to Longton.
The potteries, which has one industry that it's really recognised for, is going to have words that are specific to that industry, that even people who don't work in the industry will know and probably use as a marker of where they come from. And B, they will also feel unique, because they are the people in the country who carry on that trade better than anywhere else, and so on. So again, they'll probably use those forms because they're really sort of steeped in it.
If you look at the pottery industry, and this is true of almost any other industry you care to name, they have very distinctive names for individual products and individual processes, and those names and those products and those tools and the language which is used in manufacture very often is adapted for use in local speech.
It must have been interpreted on the pot banks when industry became to be the big workforce. So you'd get great factories like the Woods and the Wedgwoods, Adams's, and they would talk about the kind of equipment that we're using. So, you know, we get odd things like muffins and twifflers and things like that. And of course that was carried into the public houses, was carried into society. And I think from there, like anywhere else, dialects are produced.
I can vaguely remember my older brother saying something like, "Cross say, kick a ball against the wall and head it till you bossed it."
Cross kick a bow against the wall and head it till it bosts.
Everyone does that cross kick a bow again a woe thing, don't they?
Can you kick a bow against a woe and hit it with your head? My granddad used to do the old cross kick a bow against the woe, and I'm like, what's that all about? And my mother used to tell me what it was. And then until they explained to me, it was like, can you kick a ball against the wall, head it with the head till it burst? I'm like, right, now I get it now.
I think it's important to every area, isn't it? I mean, we need to keep our roots and what have you. I think it's dead important.
A lot of people don't speak it anymore. I still do, especially when I've had a few beers. It comes out.
I think it's quite important to keep your own dialect, yeah. I mean, the only person who say duck, where we say, all right, duck, it's just a normal thing for people from Stoke to say, hi duck, you're all right. Anybody from out the area will look at you as if you've got three heads, because they don't understand duck.
It's viewed as a slightly down-marked accent, as slobby, uneducated. And I think it would be difficult to make your way in a current business world on any sensible level, talking like May from May and Ma Lady, frankly.
Well, me and my lady have come here today and we're having a cracking time on the cider.